All right, everybody, welcome back to the best damn training channel on YouTube. Today is the last day of the deload week for Summer of Speed program. So we're finishing up week 4 today. Today, I'm gonna be doing the fly flow flies and then some 30-meter sprints. And I thought today would also be a good video to add in my complete warm-up, because that's probably one of the most asked questions that I get here on YouTube as well through Instagram. Is people see the sprints, people see all the plyos and everything, and they want to know, how do you warm up for something specifically like that? I'll go through my entire warm-up, but what I would like to express to you guys prior to showing you guys what I do specifically to warm up is warming up for sprints or warming up for lifting is pretty much highly individual, in that is going to be based off of what the individual needs in order to feel that they can start performing the task at high intensity. So for me, what that means is I have what I call a 3-step approach to warming up. Step 1 is to get loose. Step 2 is to get warm. And then step 3 is to get to work. So we're gonna start with the get loose section. And what does get loose mean? Well, get loose is where you do your mobility, dynamic mobility, kind of opening up the joints, feeling good, and just trying to get things feeling like it's loose. For me, what that looks like is I start with a band. I go through some different movements with the band. I'll go through some walking knee pulls. I'll go through some lunges, and you guys will see all of that. My focus for the get loose is kind of just get to end range of motion, kind of stretch some things out, feel if things are tight, feel if there's any soreness or stiffness anywhere. And you can do that in any form or fashion that you feel fit for yourself. It doesn't have to be exactly what I do today, but what I like to do is get a band. First thing I'll do is just 8 to 10 straight leg raises with the band, just to kind of stretch that hamstring out, see if I feel anything in the hamstring specifically. Go back and forth. I'll do both legs here. And then I'll go through the same thing, but go side to side, back and forth. From there, I'll go into the ankle. So I'm looking at using this band, try to get into dorsiflexion as much as I can, feel that stretch in the ankle, push against it for a second, and then go back and forth 10 times on that. Then I'll get rid of the band, do what's called scorpions. I'll do 5 to 6 reps on each side for the scorpions. So you're lying on your stomach, arms out to your side. You're trying to take opposite foot and reach it to your opposite hand. Hip circles real quick. Then I do what I call leg whips. So you're gonna be one leg out straight, and you're just going to add a little bit more velocity into this. Whip the leg back and forth. I'll go through a half kneeling, kind of back and forth, hit the hip flexor a little bit, hit the hamstring a little bit more, and then that's gonna be pretty much it for all of my ground-based kind of get loose movements here. And then I like to get up on my feet and do a little bit more. So knee hugs here. I'll just walk this out for about 10 meters. Then I like to do some hamstring sweeps. Normal hamstring sweeps, what you'll see is you take a step out, you kind of hinge over at the hip, sweep your hands against the ground, and you're trying to stretch out whatever that front leg is. I like to add kind of a Jefferson curl-esque type addition to this. So as I step out, what I like to do is kind of round, flex my back a little bit more, sweep through, and then lead with the head as I'm standing back up. So I'm thinking about pointing my head down, rounding, and then picking my head up and trying to extend through my back as I pick up with that as well. Then I'll go into the world's greatest. So lunge out, elbow down, rotate. And then I just like to go into kind of a straight leg kick. So I'm gonna swing my leg as high as I can, try to reach my hand out so I can tap that toe, and then I'll march that out for 10 meters as well. And then once I've finished with those straight leg kicks, I'm generally pretty loose. Like I've felt everything out, I feel good. And now I'll start getting into my running drills. And the drills, again, they don't need to be specific. Not everything you do when you warm up has to be a direct correlation to something with your sprinting. What I'm looking at doing with my warm-up section is starting off with lower intensity stuff, and I'm gonna be building intensity and building speed in these as I start to progress through the first movement down to my last movement, which is just going to allow me to get to the point where I feel like I can start sprinting. So it doesn't have to be the most specific transferable drills, and not everything you're doing is working on sprint mechanics. Your warm-up section is a warm-up. Like all you're trying to do is get warm, breathe a little bit heavier, feel like maybe you're starting to sweat a little bit, and then you should be feeling ready to get to work. So we're done with the get loose part. Now we're going to start with the get warm part. First part of my get warm is I just like to do kind of a walk. From the walk, like I said, we add a little bit of intensity to it. So then we go from a walk to a march. And then from the march, I've done multiple things here. I'll go into A skips. Sometimes I'll go into A switches. So the difference between an A skip and an A switch is an A skip, you'll, at some point in time during that movement, you're gonna have both feet hit the ground before you get into your next A position. An A switch, you only have one foot in contact with the ground the entire time, and you're switching your feet without having both touching the floor. I'll do both of them for you here. Generally, I'll just do one. So an A skip is, and you can see both feet hit the ground, and then the next foot comes up. Where in an A switch, you're maintaining one foot on the ground versus the other. And this is where I was saying at the beginning, where the specifics of your warm-up don't matter. Like a lot of people will say, you should do A switches instead of A skips, because in your sprint, you're never gonna have both feet touching the ground. It's always gonna be one foot after another, which is true. But again, we're warming up. I'm not working on my sprinting right now. And not everything we do needs to directly translate over to sprinting. That's what sprinting workouts are for. So A switches is so obviously one, you have one foot in contact with the ground at all times. The other one, you'll have a point where both feet hit the ground before the next foot goes up. Whatever you want to do is fine. It doesn't matter. So I'll do either A switches or A skips, just depending on what I want to do that day. I'll switch it up here and there. From the A, I go into like a B skip. They're gonna look very similar, except for A, I'm thinking about bringing that knee up and putting the foot straight back down. With the B, I'm bringing that foot up and I'm thinking of trying to drive the back of my knee, and I'm almost scraping the foot below my hip. So I don't want to get my foot out in front of me and scrape. I want to think I'm driving that foot down and I'm making contact underneath the hip, not out in front and trying to scrape. So that's the B, that's going to be the A. So we're doing B skips here now. And then we're going to go into a C skip. C skip, start off with an A, foot goes down on the ground, bring it out to the side, foot comes back to the ground, then you end with a B. So that first one is knee up, foot straight down, lateral, and then you're thinking about knee up, scraping the floor underneath your hip. So you have the A and the B skip in one. We're just adding a little lateral movement in there as well. And what this whole skipping series is doing is you're just kind of getting a little bit bouncy on the heels. So you got a lot of ankle involvement here. Plus you got a lot of hip flexion, hip extension happening rapidly, starting off with A, B, then C. Then we make it the most rapid that we can, which is just continuous high knees for 10 meters. And then from here, what I like to do is a karaoke. Or karaoke, depending on what country you're from, I guess. But this is another great example of warming up is just a warm up, and not everything needs to be directly transferable over towards sprinting, which I think a lot of people in their sprint warm up think that everything needs to be very sprint focused. Karaoke, all we're looking at doing is just getting a little bit of more lateral movement in, crossing that midline of the body a little bit. Nothing specific there towards sprinting, but we're starting to introduce a little bit more velocity because I can do karaoke much faster than I can do A skips, B skips, and high knees. So I'll generally start extending this out now towards about 20 meters. And now we're gonna get into kind of the bounding and cycling portion of the warm-up, which is now going to be our fastest warm-up movements prior to doing like build-ups and doing our first couple sprints. So I like to start with a straight leg choppy bound. So really short straight leg bounds. I kind of jog and build up a little bit, and then I'll try to carry that out for about 10 to 15 meters. And what I'm looking at doing is I just want the hip to go very rapidly from flexion to extension. Now we're not getting maximum flexion and maximum extension, but what I'm trying to do is just speed that motion up a little bit, try to be as quickly as I can through 10, which I'll need to be careful here because the track is a little bit wet. So I might slip up a little bit if I'm not very cautious about this. But all we're doing now is introducing more velocity, try to get warmed up, try to get closer to what our first warm-up reps will be. So like I said, jog into it a little bit. And then from there, we're just gonna extend it. Now, rather than short, choppy ones, we're gonna try to be quick and get a little bit more distance on each of these straight leg bounds. So same thing, I'll kind of jog into it. I'll start my straight leg bound. Try to do this fast and almost for distance. All right, and then from there, we're gonna start adding in some more cycling movement. So I'm gonna keep that straight leg bound, but what I'm gonna do is 5 to 6 hard, fast cycles with just the right leg. So I'm working on trying to pull that foot up to the butt, cycle out in front, and just do it as quickly as I can for 5 to 6 reps on the right side, 5 to 6 reps on the left. Give myself a little bit of speed before I start my cycles. And then from here, what I like to do is we're gonna alternate those cycles. We're gonna do it every third step, and then we'll carry that out for 10 meters. So what it'll look like is we're gonna have that straight leg bound, but every third step, we're gonna try to cycle as quickly as you can. So it's gonna go. but obviously traveling it over distance as we do that. And then the last thing I like to do is just some buildups. So I start off probably like 50%, 60%, 70%, do 3 reps of these, 4 reps of these, however many I feel like I need in order to hit my first sprint rep at as maximum of effort as I can. So we're gonna end up, this is our last thing that we're doing, which is gonna be our fastest warm-up movements, our highest velocity if we're measuring out all the warm-up movements and how many meters per second we're going. We started off very slow doing the walks, and now we're ending with our fastest movements by doing these build-ups. So I'll be building up over the course of 30, 40, 50 meters just to get loose, feel good. All right, so that entire warm-up took 20 minutes. It's actually, I think it was a little bit under 20 minutes. Get loose, get warm, and now we're gonna get to work. And today's workout is going to be 2 of the fly float flies. So we're gonna start off with a hard 10. We're gonna do a 10 float, and then we're gonna end with a hard 10, so 30 meters in total on these. What I'm looking at doing is starting off 0 to 10 as hard as I can, transition and float a little bit, get myself upright from 10 to 20. I'm not continuously accelerating through 10 to 20, and what I'm really trying to do is move into more of an upright position without decelerating too much from that 0 to 10. And then from 20 to 30, we're gonna punch it, and so we're gonna see how fast we can go. So we'll do 2 reps on the fly float flies. Then we're gonna do 2 reps on some just 30-meter sprints. What I'm gonna do now is set up the cones, get the timing eye set up. We're gonna measure 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, fly, float, fly, 2 reps. All right, so fly, float, flies are done. They felt really good. Specifically the 0 to 10 felt really, really good today. So if I'm looking at the first 392, or excuse me, if I'm looking at the first rep, the 393, 0 to 10 was a 165, 20 to 30 was a 106. If I'm looking at the second repetition, 0 to 10 was a 165, and then 20 to 30 was a 105. So both of those reps, I hit 21 miles an hour. The 10 to 20, the float zone was the exact same. So 122 between 10 to 20, which is great because that adds consistency for this and shows me that I'm being able to maintain the intensities that I want to see. Now we're going to take away that float zone and we're going to do 2 hard 30-meter sprints here. And what should happen is the 165 should be relatively close if I hit it the way I should. So let's say 165 to 17. That 122 should drop down into the high teens. And then that should translate to that 105, 106, dropping a little bit closer to 1 second flat. So if we execute the way that we should, which is maintain intensity on the 10, increase intensity on the 10 to 20, allow myself to get higher max velocities or higher miles per hour on that 20 to 30 zone, then we should see some high 380s here coming up. All right, so 383, 382. What I love most about today is that every single rep got faster. So first rep on the fly float fly, 393. Second rep on the fly float fly, 392. First rep on the all out 30, 383. Last rep on the all out 30 was a 382. I love the fact that each of those reps and the quality of them was getting better as we continued through today's session. So if I'm looking at the first one, the 383, a 161 0 to 10, so significantly faster 0 to 10, a 121 on 10 to 20, which is interesting because in my float phase, I was doing a 122, and on that rep, I felt like I was running pretty hard, but I only got 100th faster. So what that 121 tells me is that I'm probably trying too hard, and I'm kind of spinning my wheels through 10 to 20, rather than being a little bit more patient and making sure I'm extending through each of those steps as I'm pushing through that acceleration. But then 20 to 30, we hit a 1:01, which is 22.1 miles an hour, which is incredible to see on that 20 to 30 zone. Now I've hit 22 probably 3 times total now, looking at this 383, which shows consistency and that 20 to 30 range is being developed the way that I would like to see that being developed. Now we go to the 382, and this is kind of what I would like to see. So the difference between the 383 and the 382 is that 10 to 20. So rather than doing a 121, it got down to 118. So that's kind of where I want to see like the high end of that. I'd like to see a 116 on that, but 116 to 118 is kind of where those 10 to 20s should be. So we cleaned it up a little bit on that second rep, and then third rep, or then the 20 to 30, it was a 101 again. So consistently hitting 22 miles an hour now between that 20 to 30 meter zone, which is fantastic. And that puts me also matching my best all-out 30 right now for this first 4-week phase on the Summer of Speed program. 382 is the best rep that I've done, and I've done that multiple times now. So I've hit it twice. I hit my first 382 earlier this week, and now we're at the end of the deload, and I hit a 382 again, which is fantastic to see. I'm feeling amazing towards the end of this deload week, and I'm really excited for the things to come, because next week we're going to get into our strength and power work. So everything in the weight room is going to get a little bit heavier. We're going to do less reps on that. We're going to add in some more plyos, some more Olympic lifting as well. And then the distances on the track are all going to extend. So we're going to be doing some 40s and 50s. We'll still be doing some 30s here and there, but we're going to extend those distances out to 30, 40, 50, rather than doing a bunch of 20s and a bunch of 30s. So I'm really excited to see what specifically like 30 to 40 and 40 to 50 might be on some of these sprint times, because I think I'm going to be really close to 24 miles an hour already. I think I'll be like mid 23s. And at week 5 of a 12-week progression, which I feel like the earliest I was expecting to hit 24 miles an hour, I thought would be around like week 10. So 2 weeks prior to doing my test. So if I can hit 23 mids around the week 5 mark and be able to maintain that week 5, 6, 7, and 8, and then I think we'll be able to hit 24, week 9, week 10, be able to maintain that as we go into our 60-meter test at the end of this program, or at least that's where I thought I would be at. So I'm going to go into the weight room now, but I'm not going to film that because I'm just doing like 1 to 2 sets of 60% back squats and then some hamstring work. It's nothing too fantastic to be seen on YouTube today. So I appreciate y'all for watching. Make sure to like, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.